It's an important question. It's a big question these days, with a very complicated answer. Because Easter 2020 is being celebrated in the midst of a pandemic that is still coming down upon us. The invisible bullets are still being aimed at us from directions we do not see. A lot of us are hurting and fearful. And so on this Easter Sunday, I sincerely ask you that question. How are you? The truth is, we are all amateurs at all this. We are all trying to figure out a way and invent a life in circumstances so different than the world just 5 weeks ago when Lent began, and we started to make our stumbling way through this wilderness. With just that question, we are exploring our inner terrain. We are scratching the surface of our minds, what we are thinking, and our hearts, what emotions we are aware of bubbling up there, sometimes even overwhelming us. And our souls asking this question a soul asks, which is, what difference does this make for me? What difference does all this make for me? The soul, as you know, are those places in us where we make meaning, or should I say, discover meaning. Uncover the meaning that is being revealed here and now. You and I, we are explorers of this inner landscape, this inscape. All of us, without exception, all of us are finding our way through the difficulties we've never faced before. And so it is challenging to put it into words. But one thing I can say clearly is fine will never do. This is not the Easter we imagined. Easter is supposed to be celebrated in a full church with incredible music where everybody's singing, blooming lilies, and a big family meal afterwards. Easter is supposed to be a party. After all, we're celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, a sign of hope and life. This Easter, it isn't in person, it's online. It has the music of Easter, an inspiring message perhaps, I hope, but it feels different. There likely won't be the same family gatherings afterwards. We won't all be together in one place, and we may not feel as hopeful as we have in past Easters. But this is exactly why I think it's so important that we celebrate Easter now, this year, 2020. We need it. John tells us the Easter story. It didn't start in the daylight, but it started while it was still night. Easter eventually led to celebration, but it began while people were still mourning the loss of their teacher. It started in a time of isolation, fear, and discouragement. That is where Easter always starts. And that is part of what makes it so hopeful and so necessary. Easter crashed into a world that seemed dark and pointed to a new day that was just beginning to dawn. At first, they didn't get it. Neither do we. So how are you holding up? How are you doing? Some folks out there are throwing around the word apocalypse. These are apocalyptic times, they say. Most people who use that word use it to frighten people or because they're so frightened. Like the end of the world kind of stuff, you know? The apocalypse. Well, not quite the end of the world, but definitely an end time for an institution that will never be the same again. The church, businesses, business as usual. So many want to get things back to normal, and yet we have to wonder, is normal worth getting back to? And it's the end time for the way we've lived our life personally, I suspect, up until now. At least in many ways, I hope so. But literally, the word apocalypse comes from the Greek word, and it means revelation. Apocalypse means revelation. Far from being the end of the world, it's really about the beginning of the world, and uncovering, a revealing. For me, it is poets and it is writers, it is music and it is art that help me to that beginning place. Maybe some 15 years ago now, I was invited to share a weekend with a now 85-year-old Quaker named Parker Palmer, who quickly became a mentor to me. He asks the question, what is being revealed in times like this? What is being revealed to us, for us, in times just like this? What is being revealed about me to me? What is being revealed about you to me? And how I see you? What is being revealed about the world? Bingo. Eastering. If that's even a word. Eastering. I find that I make my way through this pandemic struggling to get beyond my fears. As I make my way through this, there's so much to learn right now. And I don't know about you, but a good day for Gary Brown is when I've learned something new about myself or about you or about God and God's ways. There's a real comfort for me in the learning process. Learning is an energy released. Learning is therapeutic even, I find. Learning is its own resurrection. Slowly unfolding for me like the mystery of resurrection was for those who loved him back then. They didn't get it right away. Neither do I. Gradually, it became so real to them. Gradually, they came to understand. They were learning resurrection. What is being uncovered for you in times like these? What is being revealed? What are you learning now that you will be able to take and use into your future? There is so much to learn because of all this. For me, today, I'm realizing, I'm trying to wrap my brain around that there is much we can't control. Most of us live most of our lives with the illusion that we can control so much of our lives, with the illusion that we can control things. And we might get by with that illusion for a long time until something like this hits the brakes of our lives. We are learning as a community that we are not controlling much of what we think we can. This is teaching me to live in reality and not illusion. This is teaching Gary Brown, and this is a hard lesson for me,
to live in reality and not illusion. Illusion of control, I am learning, will always let us down. Always let us down, as Parker once described it to me. I took 3 deep dives into depression, he said to me. I took 3 deep dives into depression because of my illusions. This pandemic is shattering my and perhaps yours, your illusions of control. That, for some of us, can let loose not a small amount of anxiety. I guess I will always have to learn that the hard way. But there is one other thing I'm learning, or should I say remembering, from those 15 or so years ago. I'm in a high-risk category because of my age and diabetes. But I am so safe compared to so many. I find myself these days waking up right now to people who live in high-risk categories of life all the time. The numbers who live in high-risk worlds every day of their lives. Not because of their age or some chronic condition, but because of their sexual orientation, poverty, no health care, their race, their religion, their gender, violence. These people live in non-stop pandemics. Because of this pandemic and my risk, I now have a tiny, tiny window to glimpse what these folks live all the time. And I want to learn all I can, and may I never forget what I'm learning. While I might get past this high-risk pandemic, they won't. And what I am learning from this pandemic, just that, how much I hunger and thirst to learn. That learning can transform a day and my life. To learn something new every day makes my day. I read to learn. I fall into conversation to learn. I listen to podcasts obsessively and joyfully and eagerly just to learn something new. It helps make the day enough for me. For me, at least, learning is a resurrection. I guess in that sense, you could call all this then an apocalypse, a revelation waiting to be learned. My Easter hope. My Easter hope is that on the other side of all this, there will be an opening, a new opening, a new invitation to share and to connect. How are you entering to this experience of pandemic and all that it brings? What are you learning? What insights? What new understanding? Am I wrong to say that all of us, without exception, personally and together, have so much to learn from all this that we dare not ever forget? How are you? I am hearing people ask that question all the time, and I'm hearing people ask that question like I've never heard them ask it before, with such tenderness and care. This might not be the Easter I imagined, but it just might be the Easter I need.